I do love connecting people. And I had somebody say, well, why is it only for 100 people? And I'm like, well, I intentionally made it a smaller group of people so you have time to make meaningful relationships and connections. And I really think that success is built on relationships.
Welcome to another episode of Negotiate Your Best Life. I am beyond thrilled to welcome one of my dearest best friends, Amberly Lago. Today, she is a widely recognized expert. She's a speaker. She is one of the best people I know, one of the hugest hearts. And she is unbelievably brilliant and an entrepreneur. She is the podcaster of the True Grit and Grace, a podcast that I've had the uh, unbelievable honor of being on not once, but twice. And she is the founder of the Unstoppable Life Mastermind and the Unstoppable event, which we're going to talk about here in a moment, which I've also been honored to speak at before. She's been featured in national media such as Forbes, USA Today. She's been actually named one of the top most influential speakers in the nation. She's been on The Doctors, Hallmark, to the Today Show. She's really pretty darn awesome. And we're going to be talking all about her today. So welcome, Amberly.
Oh my goodness, Rebecca. I love you. I hope I can live up to that amazing introduction. That was incredible. Can you just go everywhere with me? Like,
Yeah,
I just want to hang out with you. Just come along with me and just,
how lucky would
that
I
was
be to get to do
amazing.
that? You're also one of the best connectors I know. You are so great at connecting people too. I've gotten to meet some of my dearest and best friends because you've introduced me to them.
Oh, well, you know what? I had so much fun at your book signing in LA. That was so much
Right.
fun.
And you were the one that I selected to do the interview of me at my live book signing in
That
LA.
was so fun. That was so much fun. I loved it.
So much fun.
Yeah.
Much fun. So today we're going to be talking about your event, the Unstoppable event, which is coming up here soon in April. But before we get there, I want to talk about you. I want to talk about your life. I want to talk about some of the things that you've had to overcome because you've got a podcast, True Grit and Grace. You've also have a book. You also have another book that you're going to be writing here soon. But it didn't all come so easily to you. I think sometimes people look at my life, your life, and some of the lives of others, and they go, well, she's got a pretty good life. She's got it easy. And
Hmm.
um, it
I
never,
think social media kind of makes it look easy sometimes too, right? Like you're looking, and you're like, oh wow, well, must be nice or must be easy for them. And I kind of try, I sometimes I might be a little bit too honest when I share things. And sometimes my husband's like, why would you say that? And I'm like, well, I'm just telling it how it is. But I try to keep it real. And even when I wrote my first book, I took my I don't even like to say followers, I like to say my family, because that's Instagram is where I mainly, it's like my hub where I mainly hang out, and you can see behind the scenes shenanigans on my story. And it's funny because a lot of people know my dog's name and know our horse's name because they're always in my story. But I take people along the journey with me. So when I was writing my first book, I had doubts, I had fears. I mean, let me tell you, I had moments where I'm like, I don't know, should I even be writing this book? Like, who's gonna read it? Like, who cares about this book? Like, Who do I think I am? Like the limiting beliefs and all that stuff. I took people on that journey with me, and then I told them how I got through those moments. So I don't ever try to pretend like it's all easy or it's all perfect. I just have to, I share like, this is what's holding me up, or this is the health challenge that I'm going through right now, and this is how I'm getting through it. I mean, oh my goodness, last week I was in urgent care again twice last week.
Oh my God, I didn't even know.
Yeah, because I live with this nerve disease called complex regional pain syndrome, it can be very hard on your immunity. And you can get infections with my leg. The circulation's not great. I've had 34 surgeries on my right leg to save it from amputation. So if I get an infection, it can be pretty serious. I mean, I've been hospitalized and put in ICU when I went septic for an infection. So now when I have an infection, I don't mess around. I go straight to urgent care. And just last week, I was in urgent care and the doctor was like, "Well, you've got a pretty gnarly infection." They did, test on what medications would treat it. And they're like, the only thing that's going to treat this is Cipro. And if this doesn't work, you're going to have to be hospitalized and put, on IV medication. And I was like, okay, well, give me the medication. And I was like, well, she didn't say to go rest. I'm sure she probably thought most people would go home and rest. Not me. No, I had 3 virtual events to speak at. So I go do the virtual events, and then literally my body started to shut down. Like I started to just like shut down. And so I have learned so much, you know, in this, even the past few years, about like how important our health is, like mentally, spiritually, physically. And without our health, we can't make an impact. And so, as much as I try to grit through it all, I've had to learn to give myself more grace. I was good at the grit. I'm learning to give myself more grace.
Mm, so good. I want to reel back because I don't know that everybody has listened to the first time that you were on my show talking about why you've had 34 surgeries. So let's talk about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty crazy. I was in the fitness industry. I was doing infomercials and sponsored by Nike, regularly contributing to Shape and Health magazine. And I finished training clients, got on my Harley to head home from work, was cruising down Ventura Boulevard, and an SUV shot out of a parking lot and T-boned me, and I was thrown 30 feet. And then I was like sliding across the asphalt. And when I finally came to a stop, I looked down and my leg took the brunt of the accident. I mean, and it was crumbled into pieces. My foot was dangling off. I didn't know it at the time, but my femoral artery was actually severed. And luckily, paramedics got to me really quick. I was taken to the hospital and I was put in induced coma because my vital organs were all shutting down. I'd lost so much blood, they couldn't control my pain. And when I woke up out of a coma, that's when I learned. They were like, "Well, I'm so sorry. We're going to have to amputate your leg. You've got a 1% chance of saving your leg." And it's like a war wound. There's nothing we could do for you. And at that moment, I thought, well, wait a minute. You said there's a 1% chance. So that means there's still a chance. I want to find a doctor who's willing to take that chance and save my leg. And it took an act of God, but we found a doctor, Dr. Don Wiss at Cedars, and I got transferred, and surgery after surgery after surgery, which, ended up being 34 surgeries in total. They were able to piece by piece put my leg back together and me back together. And
What year was that?
Gosh, I was just gonna say that is 2010. I can't believe it's been that long ago. And some parts of me seem it feels like just like yesterday, and then other parts feel like it was a whole lifetime ago.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, how long was it before you were even able to start like some sort of physical therapy to try to even walk again?
You know, I just watched a video for the first time of like I didn't want anybody to video or take pictures of me. I was like I had a friend that was a photographer and she'd always have her camera, and when I was in my wheelchair, I was like, "Don't take pictures of me. I don't want to be seen like this. I don't want anybody to see me like this." I mean, cuz I was and now looking back, I wish that I would have had more pictures of that time when I was recovering and in and out of the wheelchair. And I was in physical therapy from the time that I got home from the hospital. So 3.5 months after um, the accident, I got out of the hospital and I had a nurses that came by every single day, and then I had a physical therapist that came to the house 5 days a week. And it got to the point where I remember the first time the physical therapist came over, actually. And she looked at me, and my husband gave her the x rays. And I remember her standing. I had my hospital bed in the downstairs in the middle of the living room because I couldn't go up and down the stairs. And I was completely, I could finally get up to use like a porta potty that was next to the bed, but I couldn't even walk on crutches because I couldn't keep my leg down long enough. Um, and I remember my husband handing her the X-rays and her standing by the sliding glass door and holding the X-rays up, and she looked at it, and the look on her face was like she looked at the x-rays and then looked at me and looked at the x-ray because my leg was completely plated up. The bone wasn't even there. It was all plates and screws. And she was scared. She was really scared to touch me. And but I write about her in my book, actually. And one day she actually came over to do physical therapy. And I said, "Hey, Daria," I said, we're not doing therapy today. I said, I need a favor." She goes, "What?" I said, "I need you to drive me to an empty parking. I need to learn how to drive with my left foot." She goes, "Okay." So she drove me to an empty parking lot, and I was like, switch seats with her. I used to have to drive with my right leg up on the dashboard, and I learned how to drive with my left foot. I couldn't put my leg down because of the pain, the circulation, and all the arteries and veins had been so compromised
Oh
that
my
blood
God,
would get.
that seems like very perilous.
Yeah, and so I knew I wanted to be able to drive to the store to get my husband a birthday card, and this learning how to drive with my left foot gave me the freedom to do that.
Wow. 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 It gives new meaning to the whole my left foot conversation. Wow. Oh my gosh. Um, and how old were you at the time of the accident? Are you willing to say?
Yeah, I was 38.
Wow.
38, and I had a 2-year-old and a 15-year-old. So I had one daughter that was going to be a freshman in high school and one daughter that was home. And so I'd never been away from her. Uh, she wasn't, she had just started going to daycare part-time. Like that was a big deal for her to go to daycare. I remember I tried to enroll her in daycare, and I I couldn't do it yet. I couldn't be away from her. And so I just enrolled her and just got her into daycare, and this happened. But it was the first time I'd ever been away from her. Like, I'd never not spent a night away from her. And so, thankfully, my husband was able to take off work, and he took like 3 months off work.
Mm.
Um,
Oh my God.
which, yeah, our world stopped.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. So let's fast forward to today, and well, let's go back to you. You then started to change your life completely and go into this world of podcasting and speaking and all of that. When did that whole thing start?
Oh, well, it took a while, There were like 6 years where I was a mess. I mean, I was literally still in and out of the hospital, going to therapy, um, trying so many different treatments for pain, spinal stimulator, Eastern, Western medicine, spinal block, spinal radio frequency. And I mean, I still try stuff, Like 6 weeks ago, I was just in Costa Rica to try another kind of treatment for this nerve disease. And it was, ooh, gosh, I decided to write a book, and I wasn't even on social media. And I had a lot of people say, "You want to write a book? You don't even own a computer. That's crazy. Like, that who who do you think you are?" And I was like, "You know what? If this didn't happen for just no reason, like if I can write a book and one person reads the book and it inspires them to not give up and to keep going and to push through and have that perseverance, then it is going to give pain that I experience purpose." And so I ended up writing the book. And when I got a publisher, they were like, "Well, hey, we want your book, but it's up to you to market it and brand it. We don't do any of that for you." And so I was like, "Oh gosh, what do I do for that? I don't know what to do." I didn't have money I mean, we had $2.9 million worth of medical expenses. We had a lien on our house. I couldn't hire like a marketing and brander. In fact, I'll never forget, you and I were talking about Rory Vaden, and Rory and AJ have been on my podcast. They've also spoken to my mastermind. And I remember talking to Rory, and he's like, "You mean you made it this far and you've never had any help with your branding or your marketing?" And I'm like, "Nope, I've had to figure it all out on my own." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I ended up writing a book, had no idea that the book would take off and they would ask me to be on the Today Show. Had no idea that being on the Today Show would, like, my emails would be flooded. I was a one woman show. I was answering all my emails, doing all my social media. I was doing it all. And I still actually do most of it all. I have a team now that helps me with my podcast, but I still do a lot of it on my own. In fact, I tell people to text me, and I'm like, "And just so you know, that's me getting back to you. So if it takes me a little while to get back to you, it's because it's really me texting you back. So just so you know." But started, launched the book, then started speaking on stages, got asked to do a TED Talk, and they found me, believe it or not. I don't know if you knew this, Rebecca, but do you know how I got my TED Talk? Was they found me on Instagram. It was a curator for TEDx Berkeley, and she was not looking at just the things that I was posting. She was looking at how I responded to people. So she was watching how I commented back to people. And she sent me a DM, and I'm like, "This can't be real. Like, seriously, this is a TEDx curator that's actually reaching out to me." And I emailed her back, and sure enough, I was like, "This is real. This is legit." And so I did a TEDx talk. You never know when you have, that when you have an intention and when you really are like, this is the thing that I want to do, when you just stick to it. Like I knew that I didn't know how to do social media, but I thought, well, my gosh, I'm going to learn how. And I picked a time 5 days a week that I knew that I could be consistent at the time between 5:30 in the morning and 7:30 in the morning. Sometime in there before I got my daughter to school that I could post. And that's what I did. And I was determined during that time. I thought, well, in a year, I want to build up a following on social media that I have real connections that when I get to go do a book signing, that I was able to go, hey, I'm going to be in Miami. I don't know anybody in Miami or anybody out there. Could you please just come and give me a hug? Because I don't want to be the only person at the bookstore for my book signing. Come hang out with me, please. I didn't say like, come buy a book. I just wanted them to come hang out. You know what I mean? And it worked. And at every single book signing across the country, I ended up having not only a full house, but selling out of books just because I built those relationships along the way.
Amazing. Well, I am so not surprised just knowing you because that is you, because you make friends wherever you go. You just
Oh,
do. And to know you is to love you, and that's just how you are. And
well, thank you.
but it's so true. It is so true. And so I'm so not surprised that that's how it ended up going for you. Um and so and how old were you when you first I want people to hear this because it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter where you are in life, what your station is in life, wherever you are is the jumping off point. And so I want you to say how old you were when you first started your podcast.
Oh my gosh. I was like 48 years old, I think. Like 48. Like no spring chicken. You know what I mean? Like I was 38 when my accident happened, went through years of surgeries and therapy, and then wrote the book. And I was so focused on writing the book, and then started my podcast late. It was like I was 48. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think she was like 47, 48 years old. And I remember somebody told me there, oh, well, doing a podcast is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, yeah, but they don't know. I've got grit. Like I'm a hard worker. It's going to be a piece of cake for me. And I'm like, oh no, it is a lot of work.
Right.
It's a lot of work. And if you've got a great producer, it can be a lot of money too. Like people think, oh, I'm going to do a podcast and I'm going to make all this money from sponsors and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not how it is when not for me anyway, not,
Not when you first start. I mean, even for
mm-mm.
me now, I mean, I've got some sponsors, but I'm not like killing it with the, I mean, I'm certainly not living off of my sponsors. I mean, you know.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a commitment. And I think that True Grit and Grace became a top 1% podcast for one reason and one reason alone. Like I really think it's just because I was consistent. It's not that I'm the best interviewer. It's just that I have been consistent and I've never missed a week in 5 years. I'm always every week at the same time. And that just goes to show you that if you just stay consistent, and I knew for me also, I was in it for the long haul. For me, it was not the sprint. I knew it was going to be a marathon. And I knew that it was like, okay, this is going to take time and I'm going to be consistent. And over time, it will pay off. And it has. And now I've been fortunate to have like huge guests on my show, like you.
Yeah.
Like you, I remember I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have Rebecca Zung on my show. And then thank goodness for podcasts because we became friends. Now you're like, you are one of my best friends in the world. And it started out with a podcast.
Absolutely. But that's the great thing about the podcast world because we can make dear friends and through the Zoom world, right? And
Yeah.
but you've had some really, really great guests on your show, and I think you're probably one of the top 0.5% podcasts in the world. I think we both looked at the same time, and we were both like in the top 0.5% globally, right?
Oh, yeah. I was like, how do you even do that? And you're like, oh, look, this, you were
Yeah,
teaching me how to do it. I'm like, how do
yeah.
you do that?
I think we're both in the top 0.5% globally. So, um, but I think it's more than consistency. I think it also has to do with who you are and the type of person that you are and just what you've been able to accomplish and the types of stages that you're on now, right? But I think it's also not always easy, right? And so you also last year you were doing your unstoppable event, which you started, I think, during COVID, right?
Yeah. I'll never forget. I started, I was launching Unstoppable March 16th of 2020. And I remember that date because I was launching it on my birthday. And I remember March 15th, I told my husband, I said, you know what, honey? I said, I think things are starting to shut down. I don't think we're going to be able to go to dinner tomorrow night for my birthday. He goes, nope, I called the restaurant. We are going to dinner. I was supposed to launch my Unstoppable that day. And I woke up and I'm like, oh my gosh, everything shut down. Gym is closed. Like everything in California was just closed because of
Oh, you were
like,
doing it in California.
oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
And he goes, you are launching something called Unstoppable when the world just stopped. And I was like, yep, I sure am. So I went ahead and I still launched it. And it was a small group. We met online. Then I rented a beautiful house in Malibu that was right on the beach. And had already put the deposit down on the house, which was, you know, how expensive it is in Malibu. Uh, Everybody was going to fly out, and they just released that there was some second strain of COVID or whatever. It was another, like, we thought things were getting better, and then it got worse. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go through with this and we're going to meet in person. So my first event, it was like 20 people. My next event was like 50 people. The next event was like 75 people. And I didn't stop. And this next Unstoppable Success Summit in Dallas, we're expecting 100, at least 100 people. Um, and so, yeah, I think that when you really have, like, what your goal is and what your mission is and what's fulfilling to you, there's always a way through it. It may not work out the way that you thought, but there's always a way around it and you can make it happen.
Yeah, and last year you were sick. Your husband was in the hospital.
Oh my gosh.
I
It
mean,
was it was crazy. So, yeah, anything and everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Like, seriously. In fact, I was sick. I was actually in urgent care. Ruby was sick. And then my husband had to have emergency surgery. The surgery, which should have taken like an hour, ended up taking like 4 hours. And the doctor comes out and said, well, we've had some complications. He's stable now, but he's got to go back into surgery in a couple of days. And I'm like, Oh my gosh. I am flying to Raleigh, North Carolina in a couple of days to do my Unstoppable Success Summit. And people in my mastermind they were all like, Amberly, don't worry. We've got this. Take care, stay home, take care of your husband. You're fine. And Johnny's the one my husband said, Amberly, this summit is called the Unstoppable Success Summit. He goes, you can't stop now. He goes, you got to go. So I had my mom taking care of my husband, picking him up after surgery, staying at the hospital with him. And I went to go do this event. But it was like, not only that, like the night before the event started, the online system where people were attending virtually completely broke and shut down, and we had to rebuild everything. So it was just like one thing after another, after another, after another. And it ended up being the most beautiful event. I felt like, the Holy Spirit was there with us. Like I just felt like it
Yeah.
was so
So
faith filled.
so
And
good. So
oh, the people that showed up were amazing. It just, so it was worth it all.
it was beautiful and perfect and amazing. And I know that this year will be the same thing. And so tell us about the Unstoppable event. Like, what is the essence of it? What is the purpose of it? What is it about?
Oh, thank you. You know what? It is a way to bring people together. Like earlier, you had said how you're a connector. I do love connecting people. And I had somebody say, well, why is it only for 100 people? And I'm like, well, I intentionally made it a smaller group of people so you have time to make meaningful relationships and connections. And I really think that success is built on relationships. People ask me all the time, how do you keep getting asked that you're asked to speak on all these stages or on these podcasts and do all these things? It's relationships. And so I intentionally wanted to bring people together. I mean, I've got John Gordon, Ben Newman, Rudy Ricksteins, Henry Amar, Rachel Luna coming to speak, and as well as some of my mastermind members who are taking the stage as well. But it's just a way to come together and learn the tools, get the clarity, gain the confidence, and get the tools to have unstoppable success in your business and in your life. So we're going to not just be talking about, okay, do this one thing for your business. It's like, no, this is self-development as well. So you're going to gain insights on how to live a healthy lifestyle in your business, in your mentally, spiritually, physically, in every way. And I have intentionally, chosen speakers that will bring that to the table so you get to learn from them.
Yeah. And I mean, all of those people that she just mentioned, I are just absolutely so incredible. I mean, Rachel Luna, I just heard speak at a line, and she talks about neuroscience of the brain, and she's just
She's amazing.
so brilliant, so brilliant. And Rudy is also, I mean, the way he talks about how to up level your life and your game, and I mean, he's just one of the most powerful speakers I've ever heard. And then John Gordon talking about positivity. And I mean, he wrote The Energy Bus, which is one of my favorite books of all time, seriously. Uh,
Hmm.
and he's just one of my favorite people.
Oh, and I bought 100 of his books, so every single person is going to get one of John Gordon's his One Truth book,
Oh,
his
and
newest
one
book.
true thing, it's just such a, a incredible book, probably one of the best books he's ever written.
Oh, well, he's amazing.
And
He's the reason I had on a sticky note on my computer for over a year. He's the one who gave me the title of my newest book that I'm working
Ah,
on right now.
it's been amazing.
And I was like, he's like, Amberly, I've got, I'm really good at titles. And this is your next book. It should be this. And I was like, okay. And then now I'm doing it. I'm writing it. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. And then Ben Newman, I just had on my podcast, and
Oh, yeah.
we had a whole breakthrough on his show about his dad and his narcissistic dad, and he was literally sobbing on the show.
No.
Yeah, sobbing. It was so good. I am actually just have chill bumps again about
When is that out? I missed that.
Dawn. Yeah, it's out. It is so
Oh, God, I gotta watch that.
so powerful. It's so good. It is so good. Um, so good. So yeah, I mean, all of the people that you just mentioned are just incredible humans, just incredible.
Mm.
I mean, the whole stage is just amazing, amazing people. So and of course you steering the whole group. It's just the light and vibration in that whole room, in that whole conference is just, you guys have to go. You have to go. You have to sign up. You have to go. You have to get your little behinds down to Dallas. So give us all the information on how to get there, how to sign up, and what to do.
Yeah, come hang out in Dallas. It's April 19th and 20th. There's a brunch for mastermind members only on the 21st, but go to unstoppablesuccesssummit.com, or if you just go to Amberly Lago Motivation on Instagram, I've got all the links and everything in my bio. You can also go to amberlylago.com and find everything that you need right there on my website. And make sure you reach out to me on Instagram and comment Rebecca so I know where you learned about me from, and it I would love to see you in Dallas. So come hang out.
All right. We're going to put all of the links in everywhere so that we make sure that you have it, and we will hopefully see you in Dallas.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you.